Let's discuss with structural engineer Greg Batista. He worked in the building in 2017. He was on site after the collapse early Thursday morning. So let's start with the Miami Herald reporting, if we can, Greg. A pool contractor photographed what appears to be major damage in the garage. This photo was taken just 2 days before the building collapsed. The contractor said there was standing water all over the parking garage, cracks in the concrete, erosion under the pool. Is this consistent with what you saw when you worked in the building?
No, when I worked at the building, it was just relegated to some waterproofing in the planters, and had very little to do, if nothing to do, with the actual structure itself. So, but you know, I've inspected these types of buildings up and down the coast, and typically you see these kind of, especially on a building this old. You see these kind of damages. I mean, as far as the spalling, where the reinforcing steel expands and breaks out the concrete, it's part and parcel of it. But the thing is that this building, from what I saw in the report, including the pictures that are inside of this pool equipment room, for the extensive damage that we typically see on buildings with a serious problem, these are, yeah, it's typical to see this type and extent of damage.
So this is consistent with a building that has a serious structural problem. You're saying if you had seen these photographs before the collapse, what would you have thought?
I would have thought that there is a serious structural issue, and I would have called it out on the report, much like this engineer did. What perplexes me and perplexes most of the other engineers that have seen this, that have seen the pictures and have seen this, have said, you know, yes, you have spalling, you have extensive spalling, you have something that must be dealt with as soon as possible, such as this engineer said, but it didn't even cross my mind that it would be the cause of such a catastrophic collapse as this building. So I mean, there's something there that there's, we all agree basically that there is a confluence of issues that came into play, and a certain alignment of planets that happened that caused this catastrophic collapse. And I'm currently looking into different things, and as I've been on the media expressing my views, people have gotten a hold of me, people that have not only been on the engineering side, but also on the construction side, that have come back and told me certain things that about how things were built back then and how things were designed back then. And yeah, there's going to be some and I've heard of some very interesting theories, extremely interesting theories, that in the proper time we will be exposing these.
Yeah, well, in 1981, when this building was built, that was before Hurricane Andrew, I think in 1992, and it was after that hurricane that Florida started cracking down and requiring more in terms of structural integrity when it comes to buildings. There was a word you were using about extensive spalling or something. I'm not an engineer, so it wasn't a word I was familiar with. What was the word you used?
The word is spalling, and that's basically, if you're familiar with any coastline properties, it's basically where the concrete breaks and there's a crack, and if you hit that crack, when you open it up, you'll see that there is a reinforcing steel inside of there. Now, concrete, for those going back into basics, when you look at a concrete column or beam, that's comprised basically of concrete, but that's just not the concrete itself. What gives the concrete strength is the reinforcing steel that's inside. And it's the regular steel that cars are made of, that lawn chairs are made of. When you go out and when you have these items out in the coastal environment, they rust. And when they rust, they expand up to 7 times its original volume. So of course, if you have a piece of steel that's surrounded by concrete and it expands up to 7 times its volume, of course it's going to break. And as this cancer continues undaunted, obviously it's going to affect the structural integrity of that particular beam or that particular column. And when one column breaks, and if the building is designed a certain way, this is going to be just a domino effect, where the first beam or the first column goes, the building's going to go right behind it.
So the mayor of Miami-Dade said that the building audit has already uncovered serious issues, including a building closing 4 balconies previously due to safety concerns. I assume you expect to hear more and more reports like that.
Well, I haven't heard of that report, but it would not surprise me because I saw the pictures from the engineer, the 2018 report, and there were balconies that were that had this type of spalling that we're talking about. And again, for a balcony, for excuse me, for a building that has this extent of damage that hasn't been corrected in a while, apparently. Yes, it's normal to see this kind of damage also happen in the upper floors, especially the part that's closer to the ocean.
So, Greg, how worried are you about other buildings in the area?
Well, as I told you before, I've been receiving calls and emails from other engineers, from other contractors that have been doing construction in Florida. And I stress the word Florida for a long time. And there's certain practices that are concerning that have been happening for a long time. And having heard these things and knowing about these things, it is a cause for alarm. But I do not want to enter into any specifics right now because I am in the middle of confirming some of these things
Right.
with numbers with other people and seeing how viable these theories actually are.